And what's up, fellas? Well, it's a nice rainy day in the garage today. Very pleasant. Kids working on the Supra, doing Supra stuff. A little crowded, but it's all good. We're gonna make it work. Doing some fuse box stuff today. It's gonna be great. Bring your green hat. You just go ahead and do you. I don't know. We're gonna make this a family-friendly video here. I don't know.
Family-friendly?
Family-friendly.
I don't buy it.
Fuse mappings. It's gonna be fun. So today, quick follow-up video to the Valvetronic Designs valve controller box we just installed the other day. You know what? I like it. I think I'm gonna keep it. So therefore, we're gonna hardwire it into the fuse box, hook it up to HomeLink, and then I have a couple of thoughts on it, like pros and cons. I thought I would share with you at the end of this video right quick. But in any case, let's just get right to it. Gotta hook this up to the fuse box first. I'm not gonna do a whole big deep dive into working with fuse boxes and fuses and all that stuff. However, there are a ton of great videos on YouTube that show you how to do that, and I'll link one in the description below that I use that I found to be really, really helpful. I got a couple of basic tools here to do sort of planning, figuring where we're gonna hook up our fuse tap, as well as actually getting it all set up. So check it out. And I got the back of the car backed up in the garage here because it's pouring, but still getting a little water. Thank God for Swiss tracks. You just go right ahead on raining. All right, so here's our setup. Here's what we're working with here today. I'm gonna use the fuse box in the back of the trunk. So to get to this, there's just a panel that you can remove. So for that, by the way, there's just a strap that has a little fastener right here. You can just use something like this to pry that up, pull that pin out, pull the fastener out, and then that will free this area up to remove it. You can access the fuse panel without removing this. I just found it easier to work here without having all that crap in the way. So first up, our fuse tab. So I already have a 5 amp fuse that is plugged into this. Now, in terms of trying to figure out which fuse to use for this, there are ways that you can measure. For example, if you can find the wattage that is being put out by the device, then you can use that coupled with the voltage, which we know is 12 volts, and use something like Ohm's law to figure out what amperage that you need. I didn't do all of that. I found a Valvetronic video where they were doing this, and they said that the box puts out less than 5 amps. So they used a 5 amp fuse. I figure they would know, they made the box, so that's what I'm gonna go with today. Now, in terms of fuses, we have 2 different ones that are used, at least in this fuse box. So we have the ATC style and the ATM style. There's also the ATM low profile, which I've read that they do use in the F80, although I haven't seen them used here. So we just have ATC and ATM. So I'm gonna use the 5 amp ATM fuse, and like I said, I already have that already connected into our fuse tab. All right, now really helpful piece of information here is your fuse map. So this you should find tucked right alongside your fuse box there. This is where mine was. And this shows you every fuse being used for every location in the car. Now this car has 3 fuse boxes. You got one in the front. In fact, I'll show you where it is on the map here. So you have one on the front here. So this is a left-hand drive. So it's on the right-hand side of the car up in the front. And then we have 2 in the back. We've got this one here, and there's another one over here. But again, we're just gonna use that one over there to tap our fuse into. And if you look, previous owner of this car had a dash cam wired in. Now they're using a fuse tap that runs across 2 different fuse locations here. I am assuming that that is because they wanted to be able to have the dash cam work when the car is both on and off. For my Valvetronic box here, I just want to be able to have it running when it is in accessory mode. And then when the car shuts off, after 10 minutes, power is cut to it. Now to test how to find a fuse that meets that criteria. So this is a pretty simple voltage tester. So we have a clamp hooked up to the chassis here for our ground. Car is not running, but it is on. So it is in accessory mode. And we can see, for example, so this fuse right here actually controls the light. And if we hook our voltage tester up to it, you can see that that gets power. Most of these fuses are gonna get power. So there's 2 different things that we can do here, right? So with a fuse tap, you can tap into a fuse that is already being used, in which case you would take the factory fuse, put it on the bottom of the tap, and then your new fuse that powers your device will go on top. Alternatively, you can just find an empty space. Now there's a couple of different reasons why you would have an empty space in a fuse box. Normally these fuse boxes just serve for all the different models of this car, and you might have an instance where you've got some options that weren't installed, where if they were, fuses would be there for that option. For example, my car doesn't have like the lane departure warning and all that stuff. So that whole module would probably take up, you know, 1 or 2 or more spots here on the fuse box. But since I don't have that, got a couple of empty spaces. Now, some of those spaces just flat out don't get power. Some of them still do. And the ones that do, we can tap into if we don't want to take out an existing fuse. However, I'm going to use this spot right here. So looking at my map, right? So that is going to be this space right here, and that is number 125. So if I flip to the other side here and look up 125, I can see that it is not assigned. Now, like I said, if it's not assigned, it might not be getting power. However, with our voltage tester, we can see that it does get power. And then that brings me to my next point about installing the fuse tap, right? So there is a right and a wrong way to install this. So the direction that the wire goes is pretty important. So on the side that has power here, which is on this side over here, we're gonna run it so that the wire comes out the opposite side. So we're gonna orient the fuse like this. And when we plug that in and then touch it with the voltage tester, we can see that it does get power. With that said, let's go ahead and cut our cable here, strip the wires back, and then hook it up to our fuse tap. I hope this take works out because there is no second take with this one. Give ourselves a little bit of room here. Twist this up a little bit into the fuse tap. Good solid connection. So I got these 16 to 22 gauge ring terminals here for our ground. Crimp that onto our black wire. All right, that's good connection. All right, so here's the finished product. So got our fuse tapped into spot number 125 here with the wire coming out this way, which is the correct orientation. 5 amp fuse in the tap. Now for the ground, there's an empty screw space right here. Actually looks just like that, right? And so I managed to find a screw that fit perfectly in there that I was able to clamp down our negative terminal. I'm gonna clean this wiring up, obviously, because I'm gonna route it that way, but that is what the finished product looks like. And so as you can see, the car is on, it's in accessory mode. There you go. So we are good. Now to pretty up the wiring a little bit. All right, now here is the finished product. No more 12-volt plug. The wire runs right along on the inside here. Got some electrical tape to secure it in through the little like carpeting panel here, running straight down underneath here and then up into the power source. So I'm happy with that. That's awesome. AutoZone running. That's not good. Oh,
Oh shit. I'll just take the other way out.
All right, guys, well, the other half of this hardwiring business is getting it set up to HomeLink. Now, this is a personal option. If you just like using the key fob, then no big deal. Personally, I would prefer to be able to control the buttons with HomeLink. So it's cool that you can do that. The crappy thing, at least in my opinion, is the fact that it will take up 2 HomeLink buttons because there are separate key fob buttons for the open and closed valve state. So if you have 2 garage door openers programmed to your HomeLink like I do, you're gonna have to sacrifice one. All right, first up, I'm gonna put the car into the on position. So if you hold down buttons 1 and 3 for about 20 seconds or so, it'll reset what's configured. It'll just reset the memory. There we go. So once it starts blinking, I think we're good to go. All right, so first up, gonna put the open valve button to number 1. Personal preference, I just feel like if I'm getting in the car, first thing I'm gonna do, hit 1 to open the valve. So I'm gonna do open, closed, and then garage door. Usually they tell you that when you're programming to HomeLink, you want to hold about 2 to 5 inches away. This key fob, you have to pretty much hold it like right behind the mirror for it to pick up the signal, so far that I've noticed. So I'm gonna hold this, press the bottom button and wait for it to blink fast. There we go. And at the part that it rapidly blinks, we're good to go. So for close, we're gonna do on button number 2. There we go. So now we have open, closed. Awesome. Well, we are done. Got it hardwired in. Being that is the case now, I think it's safe to say this thing is a keeper. So, we're hardwired into the fuse box, got the HomeLink set up, so now thought I would just give a couple of impressions about having the system on for about a week or so, a couple of pros and cons I would share with you. So first up, let's talk about the pros. So one, if you don't feel like going the boot mode road and using the config settings to open up your valves, this will do that. Have those valves open 100% of the way. That is pretty cool. Also, and this actually could be a pro or a con in the fact that it remembers your valve position. So some people, and I thought I was gonna have a problem with this, but I think I'm actually okay with it. But some people like the fact that every time you start your car, it closes the valves. I actually hated that in the beginning, but now that my exhaust is so loud, I most of the time prefer to have the valve start in the closed position, but maybe not all the time. Anyway, in any case, the pro being that there is no default setting with this box. So if you leave your valves open when you get out of the car, when you start it next time, they will stay open. So you could consider that a pro, and as for cons, it could also be a con depending on your valve habits. I would say though, as a slight caveat to that if you hardwired it to a accessory mode fuse, you can put the car in accessory mode before you start the car and close the valves. I think that is a sort of cool upside to what could potentially be a con in remembering your valve position. The other thing I don't like is the fact that with the key fob and with HomeLink, you have to have separate buttons for open and close. I wish it was like a garage door opener where you just had one button to control both. I wish you could know your current state in order to be able to open or close them. Minor nitpick, but nonetheless, it's kind of a con the way I see it, especially if you program into HomeLink where it occupies two separate buttons. However, there is one pro to this system that I didn't even think about until the other day, didn't realize until the other day, and I haven't heard it mentioned elsewhere. If it was, I missed it. One thing about this system that I think is really cool is the fact that you can have your car in efficient mode with the valves open, right? So if you notice, when you run in efficient mode, no burbles. So if you're somebody who likes burbles but sometimes wish you could just hear the pure engine sound, or maybe you just have a very subtle burble profile like I do with the GTS tune, but you still sometimes want just no burbles, you can actually leave your car in efficient mode, which does not produce burbles, but open the valves and get that sound. So of course you don't get the added benefit of the throttle responsiveness that you do in Sport Plus, like that more aggressive throttle response, but no burbles. Actually, I discovered it in reverse. I was in Sport Plus mode, but I had the valves closed and I'm going down the road and I hear this really weird, like super muffled attempt at burbles. Figured out that I still had the valves closed, even though I was in Sport Plus. And then so obviously the opposite of that is that if you are in efficient mode with the valves open, you get the benefit of whatever. We've been through this. All right, guys, well, I think that's all I got. I'm laughing because this is like the third, fourth, fifth time I've done it. Anyway, so I think that's all I got on this one. Yeah, hardwired in, loving the system. Let me know if you have any questions. Hope this video was helpful, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching.